of you may be aware of Airbus. So Airbus really, we make things fly. So we have division on helicopters, one on defence and space. So we launched the Ariane rocket, and I'm on the commercial aerospace side. So the size of the aerospace side is we've got about 80,000 employees across the world, and our turnover just on the commercial side is around about 40 billion euros. Okay, so quite a substantial company. And I'm head of business performance for Widebody program, and Widebody is really two families of aircraft. One is the A330, you see at the bottom, and the top is our newest long-haul aircraft is the A350. And I'll just take you through a sort of a storyline where we came from around about 2017 to where we are now, and now we implemented analytics across the program. So I'll introduce you to the digital plateau. I'll give you some examples of the analytics work we do at the business automation machine learning. I'll give you a brief view of something called Skywise, the Skywise platform. And also importantly, at the end, I'll take you through what we're doing on the people axis as well to bring in the skills, upskill people and develop our people to embrace analytics and digital. Okay, so let's just take a step back. So 1895, Lord Kelvin, he was a president of the Royal Aeronautical Society, stated heavier than air flying machines are impossible. So quite a learned man, but good news for me, the Wright brothers in 1903 at Kitty Hawk proved him wrong. Okay, we can take this lessons learned back to 2018, and certainly in Airbus, speaking to project and program managers, I've heard this this phrase many times. So big data is for geeks. I've been a project manager for over 20 years, and it won't change my life. Okay, and one of my tasks was really to change their life and prove them wrong. I'll come on to that phrase at the end of the presentation, so just remember that. Now, if we think the time to reach 50 million users, and as we've advanced through the years, so if we look at airlines from that inaugural December day 1903, so it took 68 years to reach 50 million users, and then 50 years for the telephone, mobile phones 12 years, Facebook 3 years, 2 years for Twitter. And then we had more of a breakthrough, something called, well, I won't tell you what it is, but 19 days it took to reach 50 million users. And that was, in fact, Pokemon Go. Okay, so we really see how advanced this connection theme is throughout the world. But 19 days to reach 50 million people is quite incredible. I also wanted to share with you something called Simpsons Paradox. And I know it's Robinson's confusion. And Simpsons Paradox is quite a well-known paradox about looking at individual sets of data to come to one conclusion, but when you combine them, it gives you a completely different view of the world. So, and this is really important with data and analytics. And it's something I used to tell my son when he's doing exams. He's using a calculator. The calculator gives you an answer. Okay, in theory it should be right, but start in your own mind what you think the answer should be. Okay, don't always believe what the calculator tells you. And it's the same with analytics as well. Don't always believe the answer. You need to drill down to understand the reason for the answer. And I'll give you a really nice example of this. So I'll give you two facts. So fact one is about applications to a university. So the first fact is 150 male, 150 females apply to a university. And the following are the accepted percentage of male and female applicants. Okay. Fact two, 30% of males are accepted, 21.3% of females. And the simple question is the university biased towards, in fact, that's wrong. Is the university, no, it's right, actually. Is university biased towards male applicants? So looking at the results there, 30% male, 21% female, you think, yeah, there could be a bias towards male, but we need to look at the core data. Okay, so let's have a look at the core data and see if I can make you believe, in fact, the university is biased towards female applicants. Okay, so let's look at the core data. So if you look at for engineering, males 100 applied, 40 accepted is 40%. Females 50 applied, 21 accepted, 42%. So in fact, more females were accepted percentage-wise into the engineering school. Let's now look for business studies. 50 males applied, 5 accepted, 10%. Females 100 applied, 11 accepted, 11%. So percentage terms, more females were accepted in both engineering and business studies. Okay, so looking at that data, you think, perhaps it's biased towards females. But when you combine both sets of data, in fact, you get males 30% and females 21.3%. So, and that's what it's called, Simpsons Paradox. So I invite you to look online, and it gives you lots of examples about this paradox. So coming back to a bit more reality, just share with you the Widebody Digital Plateau. And we started in around about 2017, and we're certainly ramping up production of the A350 aircraft. And every time you design a new aircraft, you're really betting the company. So a development program for a new aircraft would cost 10, 12 billion euros. And it's all really, most of it is internal funded, okay? So you're betting the future revenues of the company is going to be a success, okay? You cannot fail. And when you're ramping up production, it's really quite a stressed environment. You've got lots of what we call outstanding work, quality topics to be resolved. And this is where we started seriously to look at data lakes and data analytics. We wanted faster processing. A key element was real-time calculation. Another thing, we didn't want to replicate the data. We wanted direct access to live data. And also internally in Airbus, we wanted to develop our own data analytics capability. And at that time, we didn't really have a lot of the capabilities in-house. And so we decided to partner with an American company called Palantir. And it was reported in the Financial Times. And Palantir came into Airbus on the Widebody program. And I can remember the first meetings. So on one side of the table were the Airbus senior management, sort of male and female of a certain age wearing certain colour suits. And on the other side of the table were the Palantir people wearing jeans, t-shirts, fresh from university, never seen an aircraft production line, but really knew about the data. Okay, so it was I would say a cultural exchange. And this is where we started to embrace more of a different culture within the Widebody program and take on board analytics for the future. And part of that journey, we created what we call the Widebody Digitalisation Plateau. And that's part of my team. And on the digitalisation plateau, our aim is to get quick results. Okay. So we have a digital champions network in our core businesses in Europe, in France, Germany, UK, and Spain. And our objective is really to attack program pain points and to develop what we call the proof of value using the different digital tools in our armory, and to demonstrate potential savings to accelerate that digital transformation. I'll show you the process we go through, but we try to fail fast. Okay, so we're not afraid of failing. Okay, and we usually say we need a proof of value demonstrating that value within 12 weeks. So that is our target. The key services we offer on the Plateau are analytics, mainly business automation and machine learning. And the benefits, we really develop the expert support, mentioned about the proof of value in less than 3 months. And we also offer a digitalisation coaching service. So we invite the project leaders or the idea generators to the Plateau, and then we offer them digital coaches to take them through this proof of value process. So process is simple. It's designed to be simple, but effective. So we go from the collection phase, so we can have an inflow from anywhere in the business. If somebody's got a pain point, we want to hear about it. We use my digital champion network to discuss with the idea owner or where the pain point is, so we can do the analysis. And then we have a panel of experts as an inflow to select those topics where we feel we can add value. Okay. The incubation period would start. So that's normally on the Plateau with a team of different experts, depending on the technology. And we align a digital coach to each of these proof of values. And then after 12 weeks, we have a presentation, okay, and a go-ahead decision, or we stop, okay. So the go-ahead really takes it from this idea generator into a project mode. So at the go-ahead, we then would appoint a formal project leader, okay, and assign some budget to develop from a good idea proof of value and industrialize the topic. And then we'd link it into one of our different data lakes within Airbus to ensure it's a robust solution and supported in a run mode as well for the future. So this works very well. We inflow probably 20, 30 topics every year, okay? And we can actually, we've got concrete demonstrated benefits, okay? And we started to get a good reputation now that it is really added value for the program. So to give you some examples, what we do on the analytics side, a number of years ago, Airbus created something called the Biz Lab. And the Biz Lab is where we invited startup companies. So we gave them Airbus resources, we gave them office space, we gave them access to Airbus experts, but they could operate within the Airbus environment as a startup for 6 months. And then after 6 months, they could come to an Airbus pitch arena to demonstrate their potential of what they've developed. And one such topic was something called what we called AirCog. And AirCog was done by a company called Manna. And in fact, it's just been sold to Spark Cognition in the US. And it was based on knowledge graph technology. And knowledge graph, I'm sure some of you may know much more than me, but it's really, it works in a way a bit like Google, the search engine. That's why Google is the best search engine out there. So besides giving you what you asked for, Google also gives you, well, perhaps you've got these other ideas which are similar but not perfect, you may be interested in these other topics. And the knowledge graph does exactly the same. So it connects data points, whatever the data is. So, and we create a knowledge graph, and it's really, we're creating an Airbus brain. And we generate links between objects, and those links can be in manufacturing, in finance, in HR, it doesn't matter. As long as we create those links, and for the next proof of value, we can reuse those links. So in the knowledge graph, we have millions of connected data points, okay, which we can reuse. And it also fits GDPR standards to analyze personal data. And it's on premises as well, so we can analyze sensitive financial data. okay? And the front end we use is the data visualization. We use ClickSense, which is quite a common interface. So this is one of our main data platforms we use on the Widebody program. And as an example, to give you something on harness scrapping. So in 2020, if we take us back to probably March, April 2020, so COVID started to hit, and basically aerospace dropped off a cliff. So 80% of the world's fleet were grounded. We didn't know when they would ever fly, and in fact, many of those aircraft will never fly again. Okay, so we had a big issue. It was really a battle for survival. We had cancel orders, deferred orders, and obviously we've got production pipe. And in an aircraft, we have something called wiring harnesses. You have them on aircraft, you have them on cars, but they're really, really complex, and they have thousands and thousands of wires. Okay, and a lot of those wires are customized to the individual airline. And if an airline had cancelled, what we needed to do, rather than scrap these wiring harnesses, we had to see what was the best fit for a future production aircraft. And what we did using AirCog, we imported millions of lines of data. Okay, we made those data connections, and then the outcome was we could actually see very, very quickly where was the best fit for this harness on a future production aircraft. If we did it manually, it would have taken us years and cost us hundreds of thousands. But using knowledge graph technology, we can get an answer now within minutes, okay, because we've got the knowledge graph already in place, and it saved us a lot of money. So very, very impressive results. Another topic where we're looking at to use data analytics is sustainability. So sustainability has different facets. And we're also looking at scrapping of parts due to changes in configuration. We're also looking at transport on demand to look and visualize internal and urgent transportation needs in Toulouse, to optimize the logistics, taking into account the sustainability, the CO2, the carbon footprint, and financial criteria. And we're also looking now at the eco score. So we're looking at all the different materials on the aircraft and see how we can give them a specific score on if they're more or less sustainable, depending on the source, depending on where they come from, okay? And the engineering designers, we're going to use this eco score to select parts in the future using the sustainability criteria, okay? So we're really focusing moving forward on generating, even on the manufacturing process, a green aircraft. Of course, other topics on aircraft, we're looking at electrical propulsion, hydrogen technologies, sustainable aviation fuels on the product side, but we're also looking in the manufacturing flow, how we can be much more sustainable across that production flow. Another topic we use is business automation. I'm sure in many of your companies you have these repetitive tasks. So we're aiming now to remove those low added value tasks. So moving files from folders, copying, inserting presentations, extracting data from different data sets and data lakes automatically, automating the role of some of the PMO work, automating the role of some configuration management and finance work, okay? And we're actually starting to see now hundreds of hours saved per year. The quality is improving, okay? And it's a really quick win. We use UiPath software, and we can do a robotic process automation in between 8 and 24 hours, okay? So we can rapidly turn it around and show a real benefit very, very quickly. I know you've probably talked about it before on artificial intelligence. We're starting now more and more to look at machine learning, okay, to improve our decision making. So we use a standard process to train the data, use the algorithm for the learning process to have the trained model in order to obtain results. And we're starting to do some proof of value using what we call quality gates, okay? And quality gates map the production flow of all our aircraft. And we're now trying to predict using machine learning the correlation between missing parts, concessions, outstanding work, and to display the results in a risk matrix per aircraft so we can anticipate future pain points and also take action now to reduce that risk. Okay, so we're just starting this as a process, and we'll mature that over the coming years. Okay, so that's what we're doing. Some examples from the digital plateau, but also Airbus is living in what we call the connected universe, and looking at the shape of things to come. And one of the big data bases we use is what we call Skywise. Now, in the world, flying aircraft now, there's probably around about between 17 and 20,000 aircraft flying in the world. Okay, normally those aircraft full of computers. You've got the flight computers, computers for air conditioning, lots of information. But the information was really never used. It was kept on board, and the next flight, the information was lost and never reused. And again, we work with Palantir to provide the platform called Skywise. And Skywise is really where we connect the aircraft, okay? So when the aircraft lands, previously, we only measured 400 parameters, less than 2% of the available data. But now our aircraft are fully connected to the platform. When the aircraft lands, we can download 24,000 parameters for a single aisle aircraft, and for the wide-body family, which I work, could be up to 40,000 parameters, okay? And those parameters can be anything. It can be from brake temperature to cabin to flight computer. So we just download all the data. And data is very interesting when you start to analyze it. So we're trying to create this unity around the aircraft. So at the moment, we've got more than half the world's fleet connected to the Skywise platform. So we can also connect the operational data, the in-service data. We've got our industrial data from our production flow, and also supply chain data from our extended enterprise. And then that data, depending on what the different stakeholders want to see, we can reuse it through Airbus, the aircraft operators and owners, the airworthiness as well, service providers, air navigation. So it's really powerful. For the first time, we're using the data in a commercial environment, and we can use it to predict as well. So for example, one of the constraints for an aircraft turnaround time, which is usually 30 minutes minimum, is the brake temperature. Okay, it's not loading the passengers, it's the temperature of the brakes. Okay, but now we can do live recording of the brakes and send it back to the operator. So in real time, we can tell the brake temperature. We can also tell the wear of the brakes and do predictive maintenance, etc. So that's just one example we can use the analytics for in the future. Okay, so huge untapped potential, and eventually we aim to connect all the aircraft in the world to the platform, but we'll see how we go. Importantly, as I said at the start, on the people, and we try and we have improved to have a holistic approach to people. If we start from the top right hand corner, so digital coaching, so I have digital coaches across the company. The digital coaching course is a 4-day course, and then they go to a specific project and coach the project leader on the digital topic. Very, very powerful, okay, and very useful as a development path for those individuals. So the digital coach isn't a full-time, but it's a skill set they've got and they like to use. Moving around the circle, there is also a digital learning path, okay? So for each individual, it links to the next topic. What we use is Preditas. And the digital learning path, we have a specific one using the Preditas tool. And the Preditas is a company, but also you answer 120 different questions about your learning style, what you want to learn, and then it will give you a supported learning path, okay, on the digital topics. And I'll show you an example shortly. Moving round, we've got a new venture where we've consolidated all the corporate innovation, and we call it Airbus Scale. We're also engaging on startups as well, and also what we call a company builder. So this brings all the innovation centres together internally in Airbus. We also connect with the outside world and still support all the startup engagements and invite the startups to come into Airbus to resolve specific topics. And also, I mean, Airbus is a very powerful company. We have lots of knowledge within the company, but we need to be better selling that knowledge outside. So we also look at something called the company builder, where we may have a good idea internally, okay, but how can we build that as a company linked to Airbus externally in the outside world? And last but not least, we have a digital academy. So it's really the skills to speak, think, and act digital. We have nano degrees and lots of other topics within the digital academy. And from an analytics capability, we're also upskilling people. And in fact, engineers make great data analysts. It's the way their brains are connected, the way their brains work. So we've upskilled, I don't know what the final number is now, but it's certainly between 200 and 300 engineers to be data analysts and data scientists. So quite a huge number in the company. A lot of the training is done at the Leadership University base where I am in Toulouse. So we have management courses, general leadership courses, and also focusing on digital as well. Mention Preditas. So this is something for you personally, okay? And what it actually does, once you answer all the questions, it gives you your strengths, areas for development, where you like to explore further, but also gives you links to YouTube videos, TED Talks, Airbus training courses, and will give you a learning path based on your needs. So very, very interesting, and we invite all our people to use the Preditas tool, okay? So, just in conclusion, if you remember the first slide I showed you, big data is for geeks. I've been a project manager for over 20 years. It won't change my life. Well, big data is for everyone. I've been a project manager for over 22 years, and it will change my life, okay? And I've seen that mindset change in the last number of years with many, many people. And the maturity of the conversations around digital have improved dramatically in the last 3 to 4 years. Okay, when we started, we didn't really know what we're talking about. We didn't really know the questions to ask, but now we've got that maturity now. We know what data we want to use. and we're starting to mature the tools in order to give us the answers. But we've still got a long way to go on the journey, but I'm convinced we're going in the right direction. So thank you very much.
Absolutely superb, Mark. Really appreciate that. It's a great presentation. That really enjoyed it a lot.
Thank you.
Every time I speak to you as well, there's just so much more. And you're way in front of lots of other companies, way in front. So when I look at the sectors I'm working in, construction and things like that, yeah, they're just probably where you were about 4 or 5 years ago. I'm probably not even there, right?
Yeah.
So have you got some recommendations for people out there in terms of if they're at the start of the journey and you've learned everything you've learned since, what should they be doing? You know,
Yeah.
at personal level and at an organisation and sort of project delivery level.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, what we've been through is a cultural change. Okay, it's a cultural mindset change. So the first thing, it's got to come from the top. If you try to do it bottom up, you get many different roadblocks. And what actually happened in Airbus, I think it was in 2015, our CEO at the time took his board of directors to Silicon Valley, and he went to visit Microsoft, Google, Facebook, etc., just to see what was their culture. Okay, just to see how they operated and what was their mindset. And when they came back to Airbus, there was a different energy. Airbus, what we tried to do at the time, we actually actively tried to disrupt ourselves internally. Okay, so we set up startups. We set up a company called A Cubed. We were developing flying cars. We invested 300 million in a private equity company to invest in startups. So we were starting to actively change that mindset. Okay, and once that happened, to say we want to work with the analytics, the digital, there was an open door. Okay, and the key thing is also you need to have some quick wins. Okay, there's a lot of, oh, we don't want to change, but once you see that quick win, and with what we did at the start, we could have quick wins within probably 8 weeks. So the Palantir guys have never seen an aircraft on a production line before. They went down to the shop floor, okay, and working with the people who've got the pain points, not with the manager where you've got a filter, but working with the real people and trying to get what are the real issues. And that started this cultural change.
That's cool. So if you're working with, it's fascinating, I think, about the cultural change, the amount of investment that's gone into it. So construction companies are working on small margins, right? 1 or 2% is an industry average. So they've not got the deep pockets that maybe Airbus had. I'm not sure where you are today, you know, after 2 years of lockdown and stuff. It's probably a different situation. But what's your advice?
It was, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I mean, so some of the topics, Martin, I can get a return on investment in 12 weeks.
Right.
Okay. I mean, everybody wants a return on investment. If you have it in the same financial year, it's amazing. Okay. In Airbus, you know, maybe 3 years. Okay. But because we've got the proof of value in 12 weeks, we can show that benefit and get that return on investment. Okay. Very, very quickly. So, in fact, at Widebody level, our investment is relatively low. Okay. What we invested in is the people. Okay, so that's why that's what is important, first of all, to invest in the people. The Skywise platform and connecting aircraft, well, yeah, you need a huge investment for that. Okay, but it's baby steps first, and that's what we took. Okay, and then we developed the skill set, and then the technology supported that skill set as well.
Cool. So it's a fascinating journey you're on, and I don't see many organisations and many people with the passion and the vision that you personally got and that Airbus have got. So I'll give you an example, right? So I met somebody yesterday who was is working in a big council. responsible for a lot of big projects, and presented the vision for project data analytics. And he said, yeah, it's all hopes and dreams, Martin. We're too busy. We've got to deliver stuff now. We've had our budget sort of chopped, so we've got less people. We're all too busy. And that's a story I get time and time again, is project managers too busy delivering projects to do this stuff. So what would you say to people like that?
Yeah, first of all, you've got to decide, why are you too busy? Okay, first of all, is it because the projects aren't delivering? Is it because you've got a massive reporting cycle? Is it because you haven't got time to automate your processes and tools? Okay, so what we try to do is take a step back, and on the analytics side, we try to separate that from the daily project life. Okay, so the analytics platform is separated. Okay, what we then invite people is for the project leaders, not just the projects, but also the run mode. Okay, once a project's delivered, it goes into the run mode in production. We invited the project leader to come up, what is your pain point? Okay, you don't have to resolve it. You come up with the pain point, and we'll see on the platform how we can support you to resolve it. And we can actually resolve it within 12 weeks. Okay, if you said, developing a new IT system, come back in 18 months and maybe we'll get something delivered what you wanted, but the project leader's left and it's not really what you wanted and somebody else wants something different. But because the proof of value is super quick, you can show that added value really quickly. Okay, and that changes the mindset. That changes the mindset. So now, analytics platform, we've got the digital coach, quick phone call, I've got this issue, I've got all this reporting cycle. Well, we can automate a lot of that. Okay, all you're doing is going into the database, extracting Excel data, doing a PowerPoint slide. Forget that. We can have a little robot to do that, and you can have it in 3 days. Okay, so you don't have to invest millions. You can invest a few thousand to start to change the world.
Brilliant. So you just share with me the impact on people's jobs. So your project manager, your PMO, so your PMO must look completely different to what it looked like before. You just give some insights into that.
Yeah, we're still going on that journey.
Right.
Okay, we're still going on that journey with the role of the PMO. I mean, to be honest, across Airbus, the PMO is called different things. Okay, we can't even agree on the same terminology for a PMO. And in the old days, the PMO was a PowerPoint manufacturing organization. Okay, that's what the PMO was. And what we're saying now is that the PMO for us is really the deputy project leader. That's where we want to position the PMO, not somebody who administrates and does other PowerPoint presentations and minutes of the meeting. So if we can automate a lot of what people consider the PMO administration activities and let the PMO be the assistant project leader, then they can show they can actually add that value. And some of the PMOs have been digital coaches as well. Okay, and we're trying to use these visual dashboards. How do we use live data? So it's really, we're on this mindset change as well.
That's brilliant. Yeah, you are pathfinders on this stuff. Now,
Yeah,
I've talked about this.
Yeah. Well, you see the bigger picture than me, so happy for your feedback.
No, it is. So I talk about this stuff to people and say, this is what it could look like. And people are too busy to do it, and you're doing it. And it's great to see it. It's like looking into the future 5 years and say, this is the stuff I've been talking about. And it's always brilliant to talk to you because you're doing it, right? You're making it happen. And people say this is all hopes and dreams, but it isn't, because you're delivering it. I love it. No, I love it.
And I can assure you, our project teams are just as busy. They've got the same stresses. They're overworked, under-resourced, okay? And we're working in that exactly the same environment of many of the other organizations, okay? So we have the same constraints, but we took a strategic step to say, this is what we're going to do. It will be supported at senior management level. And they actually ask in some meetings, go and see the Digital Plateau. How can they help you as well? Okay. And every year we show we added value. So, for example, the harness scrapping I mentioned using AirCog and Knowledge Graph, it won one of the awards for excellence this year. So we're getting you know, the visibility as well, and we're showing we can actually add that value.
Absolutely amazing. Brilliant stuff. So if I can open up the floor, so if anybody wants to come off mute and to join in the conversation, put your camera on and have a chat with Mark. You know, there's an opportunity to speak to one of the thought leaders in the world, right? So I see a lot of this stuff. I speak to a lot of people, and I reckon Mark's up there, you know, with the best of the best. So yeah, please come off mute. This is your opportunity. Anybody, don't be shy.
It's always terrible asking the first question, so I understand, but
so Ian,
oh, there's
yeah,
a
go for
hand.
Okay, yes. So, I mean, it's kind of similar to a question I asked yesterday, I suppose. In the project life cycle of putting an airplane together and making it fly, you know, of all the things that have to happen for that to happen, where did you start when it came to digitalizing that process? You know, I remember when I was teaching this like 20 years ago, there was a case study of the 777 and the digitalization that Boeing had done. Were very much in the lead there in terms of what they had did. And you know, I had a similar question then and couldn't get an answer to it. Where do you start? What has to go first?
Yeah, I think if you separate sort of two things, what you mean by digitalization. So a good start is create a crisis. Okay, first of all, creating a crisis, you get budget and resource to resolve it. And in 2005 and 6, I don't know if you recall, we developed the double-decker jumbo called the A380. Okay, and the A380, when all the bits were joined together, there was issues with the wiring harnesses, and the digital continuity wasn't really there, and the company was really in trouble. And then from an engineering perspective, we put in the new digital tools, so everything's designed in 3D, okay? So we use a lot of that data, which is all digital now, in our analytics, okay? If we come on to my journey where we started, the A350, we were going into a huge production ramp up. It was the steepest production ramp up in the history of aviation. Okay. And you can imagine all the working parties coming from the different countries onto the final assembly line. And it was, you couldn't manage that manually. So we needed a digital intervention to manage outstanding work, access to the aircraft, because we had so many people on the final assembly, and it's health and safety as well. And we didn't have the tools to manage this. So this is where we started to work with Palantir to attack these pain points so we can have a smoother production ramp up, okay? And that was one of the kick starts to where we start to integrate the analytics capability. And because it was some really quick wins, the head of program thought, well, this is really quite interesting. And then we got that top level sponsorship to develop that capability for the future.
Right, so you started with a problem, basically. It was
we started with really a crisis, I would think, not just a problem, okay,
right,
which we needed to fix. And because previously they visited Silicon Valley, so they knew, you know, slightly different paradigm shift, we started to have an open door, okay. We started to have an open door, and that really helped from the top down.
Right. Okay. All right. That's interesting. Yeah. So it's a combination of, in your case, of a crisis, and then also a context that was willing to listen to these kind of things.
Exactly. Yes.
Happened in a particular time and place. Couldn't have happened earlier. You know, it had to be that time. Yeah. That's really interesting. But I also kind of wonder, just in terms, I mean, okay, I know virtually nothing about putting airplanes together, other than what I read in this 777 case 20 years ago.
Okay.
So like I said, you had a specific crisis in a specific situation, but are you saying then that another company, any company that wishes to digitalize and use their data analytically to control their projects, etc., they should look for a similar single application or point or proof of concept, or what is it you called it? You called it something specific.
A proof of value we
Proof
use.
of value. Yeah. So a specific problem, not thinking of, okay, here's a blank sheet. How do we, let's look at our project life cycle. How do we initiate it? How do we control it? How do we, don't take that approach. Look for a specific problem and then widen out from that.
Yeah, so that's where we started from. What are the pain points? What are the problems? Then how can we resolve it? You can resolve it by, changing the organization, but some others, we couldn't resolve it internal to Airbus. And that's where we needed that analytics capability. That was the only way forward to manage this really complex, fast-moving environment. And you're really connecting these data points together. And that was the only way we could actually move forward. Okay. But what we do now, some of the stuff we do is really cheap. A robotic process automation, we can do it in 3 days. Okay. And everyone's going, whoa, I wish I had that 10 years ago. Okay. So again, it's this mindset change, which takes some time. It really does take some time.
Cool.
Okay. Thank you.
Pleasure.
So I've got another question from Harry Haran. If you'd like, come off mute and please join in the conversation with Mark. You there?
Hello?
Yeah, hi Mark.
Hi.
Hello? You there? He's disappeared. Oh,
Okay.
is he?
One quick. Is he there?
Yeah, can you hear me, Mark? This is
Yes.
Harry.
Yes. Go for it.
Oh, sorry, I'm like putting off my video because of the network issues that I'm facing here.
Okay.
So I have a question from the perception of the being a kind of supplier, I would say, because I have seen and I have like read through your website that you are like giving a lot of you are looking forward for a lot of collaborations in terms of like working with different organizations. So I would like to take that thing and have a quick question with you in terms of like working for this process transformation, or since you are talking on the grounds of digitalization, what would be the opportunities for the market as well as for the potential suppliers in terms of like collaborating for this widespread body or else the kind of domain that you are into?
Yeah. So the route. I mean, Airbus is a big company, but very difficult to get into. Okay. So the route into Airbus, if you recall, on the people side, we have a company called Airbus Scale. Okay.
Okay.
Airbus Scale. And Airbus Scale, they're our interface into the outside world with the startups on how we collaborate in the future. So my advice would be to check on the Airbus website, certainly link to the Airbus Scale, because Airbus Scale have external scouts, okay, and they scout for different startup companies who to collaborate with for the future. So I don't do it myself, okay. Do collaborate with Airbus Scale, and I would suggest seek their advice first.
Okay. That's great. Thank you for the information.
All right, thank you.
No problem. One quick point, what I didn't mention, also in Airbus, in order to believe the data has to be robust. So we do spend a lot of time cleaning the data, ensuring we have data officers, okay, who are responsible for that data and the maturity of the data. All right. So that's where you need to start first, ensure the maturity of that data. And it's Airbus data. So I don't care if it's in a project, in a production plant, I don't care. It's Airbus data. It's not a project data. It's not individuals' data. And everybody must share their data. Okay. And that's one of the sort of morals you must do. Okay. Don't keep the data to yourself.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
So in terms of that data as well, so back in the dark days of PMOs and PowerPoints and things like that, you'd have got people who were sort of manipulating the data to try and sort of bury some bad news, etc.
Yeah.
And you can't do that anymore because it's now live data, right? So what was that process for you to go through old school manipulating the messaging and the truth and things like that to the transition to, you don't need to argue about the data because the data is the data now. You've got to argue about the insights that's coming out of the data. So you're not manipulating the truth anymore. So what's your view on that, Mark?
Yeah. I mean, in Airbus, we have petabytes of data. That's it, petabytes. So the first thing we have to do is, do people believe the data? Because you do a PowerPoint presentation, then there's 2 pages why you can't believe the data.
Yeah.
Okay, we used to have that. Okay, yeah, it tells you this, but in fact, this is really what's happening. So we spent probably 3 years, had a huge explosion in the data, and that's why we put in place a data organization with data officers responsible for their data, for the robustness, but also to ensure GDPR is protected and all those other good things, plus certainly in our environment, export control. So now, in many areas, the data is robust. What we're trying to concentrate on now is, if it is read, what are the recovery actions and what support do you need to recover? Okay, so you're concentrating on the resolution or anticipation, if you've got some machine learning, rather than justifying why you can't believe the data.
Cool.
So it's a different conversation.
Yeah, really good. Carla, if you like, come off mute, welcome.
Hi. From the answer to the first question that you gave, there was an inference that you're using the data to do complex network planning as opposed to perhaps using a tool like Primavera or.
No. The planning tool, if we keep the planning tools separate, okay, let the planning gurus do that. What we're doing, we can take planning data or production data and connect data points. Okay, so we don't use it to do a planning tool. I'm not trying to replicate Primavera or Artemis or anything, but what we can do, we can generate, just link any data sets, for example. So if I give you an example, we have an issue in production with the machine, okay, and we have a concession. We can link the machine data back to the engineering design data, back to the engineering drawing to see, do we need to open the tolerances on the drawing so the machine is capable in a plant in Spain. So we just connect the different data sets. From our planning tool, we can extract the planning data, and we can also check, is it robust, are we on track, etc. But that's not our core activity. Okay.
Okay, so is it able to help you detect project performance, bearing in mind the expression that schedule is king, so all your data should come from the schedule when trying to deliver a project or a program that can get quite complex over a number of years?
Yeah, so I mean, because we cover, it's not just projects, we cover the run mode, in service mode, we cover quality topics, procurement topics, supply chain topics. And you've got to be careful that your schedule is so complex, nobody ever understands it when something goes wrong. Okay, so what we try to do is try to attack the pain points in the schedule. Is it a supply chain topic? Is it a production topic? Rather than the general schedule itself. We leave the planning guys to do that. Okay.
Okay,
Does
great,
that
thank you.
make sense?
Yes,
Okay.
it does. Yeah, perfect sense.
So if you've got variance event then, Mark, do you trace that back to the graph then, do you?
Sorry, can you repeat, please, Martin?
So if you've got a variance event, so something's not gone to plan, would you trace all that back through the graph?
I mean, we don't monitor everything through the graph. Okay.
Right.
What we use the graph for is to attack the pain points. I mean, we have variance analysis in our planning tool anyway. That is a day job. People do that. What we use the knowledge graph is to attack any key program pain points. And the advantage is that we can do it multifunction. Okay. So we can attach quality data to in-service data, to airline data, to engineering data, and make those connections very quickly. And that's a big advantage we've got. Quality, tend to look at quality. Planning people just look at their schedule, okay? But we can connect any data point to any other one and then understand the relationships, okay?
Yeah.
So basically, we just connect data, okay, and try to answer a specific question.
So you get to the situation whereby with your scheduling is that you'll get to the point where your logics are created by a bot because it knows that this needs to follow that. You know, you've done it multiple times before, and then you can start to use all the norms, and that's built into your sort of graph as well, right? It's built into your knowledge network. So does that really change the job of a planner in the future?
No, I think if you go into a recurrent activity, which is a production, then yes. In a project mode, okay, there's not many recurrent activities, to be honest. Okay, there's not many recurrent activities. And I mean, a classic one now is you've got the crisis in the world with titanium and everything. So then all your schedule is impacted by external events. We have the COVID crisis as well.
Yeah.
So trying to predict that, and it's very difficult within a knowledge graph. Okay,
Yeah.
Sometimes you need the expertise of the individual. So we try not to do that in the project mode, but in the run mode, absolutely. Okay, absolutely. And that's where we're also starting to look at machine learning as well to anticipate the future and have it, you know, with the quality gates as well. So, but within the knowledge graph, we cover many different topics. Okay, and that provides the interest.
Superb. Good. Our final question, because we're keeping Mike from his glass of wine.
Yeah, it's already chilled. Yeah, I'm ready.
Right. So final question from Habib. Would you like to come off mute, please?
Oh,
Go for
thank
it.
you, Martin. And hi, Mark.
Hi.
My question is how surrounding the safety issues and the ethics surrounding data. First question on safety is how has data been able to how have they been able to implement data for more safety reasons, like more being able to like use it for more safety issues to prevent accidents, impending accidents in the future. And also the second question on ethics, the whole AI ethics issue, like how have they been able to improve ethical issues, data privacy in general?
Okay, tricky question. All right, so I have to be careful how I answer it. We're very strict on data compliance. So we take GDPR, personal data, very seriously. Okay, so that's built into our Airbus standard processes. Okay, and the way we use the data. So manufacturing data is not an issue. Okay, but when it comes to personal data, then we're really strict on who sees it, how it's used. And we also have to make it visible as well. Anybody can ask to see their own personal data wherever it's used within Airbus. Okay, so we're very strict in the GDPR compliance on personal data. Okay, just to make that really clear. What you had something about safety? I didn't quite catch the question.
It's about safety, I think, and the use of data to make sure that you're driving up.
Yes.
Do you mean personal safety or aircraft safety?
I think it's aircraft safety.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, personally, for what we use on Knowledge Graph, we don't look in detail at aircraft safety. Okay, but on the Skywise platform, because we're downloading once the aircraft lands all the aircraft data, we can analyze all the parameters of the aircraft and start to predict. Okay, whatever that may be, it could be in the flight control computers, on the engines, etc. So I'm not an expert on that side, but I'm sure they look at the, you know, the maintenance cycles, the replacement cycles, etc. So all I can say is safety is 100% our priority, okay, and it's taken very seriously. I'm sure in the Skywise platform they would analyse that as well. But the level I work, I don't look at the safety side. That's more the in-service side as well. Okay.
That's great. So thank you,
Right.
Mark, for your contribution tonight. It's
Pleasure.
absolute pleasure to speak to you, Mark. You're always an inspiration to us all. Keep pushing the boundaries. So I'll be interested as well in having a conversation with you sort of separately one day about when does a project type approach, so you're getting a brand new aircraft versus a version of that aircraft, which then becomes sort of iterations of it.
Mm-hmm.
So when does that start to change your project control? So maybe we'll get you back in a few months' time to have a sort of debate about that, get you in a panel or something, because I think you're sort of really pushing the boundaries, and there's lots of naysayers, and you're demonstrating that it can all be done. I think it's brilliant. It's a revelation. So thank you so much.